guys ready? Get started? All right. First, I know that I have the ability to achieve the objects, my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action towards its attainment, and I here now promise to render such action. Second, I realize the dominating thoughts of my mind will eventually reproduce themselves in outward physical action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person I intend to become, thereby creating in my mind a clear mental picture of that person. Third, I know through the principle of autosuggestion, any desire that I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of attaining the object back of it. Therefore, I'll devote 10 minutes daily to demanding myself the development of self-confidence. Fourth, I've clearly written down a description of my definite chief aim in life, and I'll never stop trying until I shall have developed sufficient self-confidence for its attainment. Fifth, I fully realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I'll engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. I'll succeed by attracting to myself the forces I wish to use and the cooperation of other people. I'll induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve others. I'll eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing a love for all humanity, because I know that a negative attitude towards others can never bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I'll believe in them and in myself. Sign my name to this formula, commit it to memory, and read it aloud once a day with full faith that will gradually influence my thoughts and actions so that I'll become a self-reliant and successful person. Hoorah. All right, 12 steps. This is a 12-step formula with minimum standards which, when followed with exactness in a positive environment, ensures 24 plus transactions annually and unprecedented personal growth and achievement. 1, I dedicate 1 hour daily towards building and protecting my self-confidence. 2, I practice and internalize my sales skills for a minimum of 1 hour each day. 3, I contact my sphere of influence by mail, by phone, and in person, and by email quarterly. 4, I make 150 plus contacts per week, 30 plus day. 5, I follow up with all my qualified leads daily. 6, I set 5 plus new appointments per week with buyers or sellers. 7, I completely pre-qualify 100% of my appointments. 8, I have an appointments attended to list and taken ratio of at least 75% or greater. 9, I call my sellers weekly and reduce all listings every 3 weeks, a minimum of 5%. 10, I sell 75% or more of my listing inventory. 11, I return every signed call and contact every buyer lead within 2 hours of inquiry. 12, I only work with highly qualified buyers who have been pre-qualified by a mortgage lender and have signed a buyer broker agreement. Earn more commissions in less time with less energy spent. I recognize success comes from consistent action resulting in predictable outcomes. Therefore, I commit to following every step to the 12 steps of summative success. All right, it's not in here. We'll do now I'm the voice, okay? Now I'm the voice. I will lead, not follow.
I will lead, not follow.
I'll believe, not doubt.
I will believe, not doubt.
I'll create, not destroy.
I will create, not destroy.
I am a force for good.
I am a force for good.
I am a leader.
I am a leader.
Defy the odds.
Defy the odds.
Set a new standard.
Step
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up. All right, good job. Opening affirmations. I'm a professional salesperson who gets home sold. I use information to help my clients achieve their goals. I price my listings right. I focus on small wins every day. Real estate transactions are abundant in any market. My abilities make me succeed. I get stronger with every step.
I have
Just
mastered
like the
every
turn on.
situation. My confidence is unshakable because I live with integrity.
I always have productive thoughts. I take excellent care of my body. I start each day with an abundance of energy. I am task-oriented. I set clear priorities daily. I know what I want and I get it. I attract and enjoy greater financial abundance each day. My gratitude gives me unlimited financial success. I think prosperous thoughts. I am prosperous. I handle my money wisely and I profit every day. Taking action is easy for me. I'm eager to start each day. I enjoy being debt-free. I exercise daily. I enjoy helping my clients succeed. I eat healthy foods. I'm a real estate expert. My SOI expects me to be their real estate expert. I'm a professional. I'm financially independent. I earn commissions with ease, helping others. I have solutions. Prospecting is good for my business. I call expireds and for sale by owners. Prospecting is easy for me. I enjoy following up with my SOI. People are attracted to my enthusiasm. I use technology to succeed. I get mentally strong with every call I make. I'm an outstanding salesperson. I'm a powerful agent. I know how to succeed. I keep positive, exciting, fun, productive thoughts in my mind at all times. Yes, good morning, ladies. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Yes. Woo!
Or journaling. Maybe
Yep.
the meditation.
Hey Alexa, play meditation music.
Station, meditation, free on Amazon Music.
Thank you.
Is that already?
All right. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good
Got
morning.
everybody? Yeah, welcome and thank you all for making it early Monday morning to kickstart this week, right? So I know we talked last week quite a bit about the listing presentation. Has everybody got that mastered now? You guys are all experts at the listing presentation? No? Not yet? Not yet? Did you learn quite a bit last week though with it? Or was it review? Have you heard it before? You know, kind of what are your thoughts just in terms of listing presentation? Because one of the things I learned in the past is we would actually spend about a month, actually more on just the listing presentation, because we knew we had to keep practicing it over and over and over. And the topic of where I'm going to focus today is going to be on the market, because we all want to be the market experts. That's how we want our community to perceive us. That's how we want our clients to perceive us, as market experts. So I printed off the Flex Market Summary Report. If you get a chance, I have them over there. There's actually 2 copies. So the one that I handed everybody was for February. If you guys want to grab January's, it's on the far where Jesus is at right now. I didn't get a chance to grab those. Yeah, there's 3 stacks. But if you guys want to compare the 2 months, it'd actually be helpful. So go ahead and you guys want to grab that. That'd be good. So we can compare the 2. So just in terms of the market, and we're going to get into that in quite a bit of detail. And this is also why you don't hand paperwork to your clients at the beginning of the conversation too, because their focus will always go straight to the paperwork, right? So whenever we print things out, we always want to say, hey, I prepared this for you, kind of put it on the side, and then we'll get into, I'll show you when you actually pull it out. Because if not, if you start handing it out early on, everybody's focus goes straight to the paperwork, right? And they're not really engaged. They're reading, they don't want to be surprised. So they're starting to pay attention here. And I'm seeing about still 50% like wanting to study and get into this, and we'll get into the details of it. But just real quick, when we talk about the listing presentation and we talk about this section of the market, and this is relevant for buyers and sellers, okay? So we're going to talk on the buyer focus, which we're going to get into this week, of what you do with your buyers. But it's always important to understand to put your seller's hat on or your buyer's hat on. And I say that all the time when I'm speaking to my buyers. I'll say, okay, right now, you got to put your seller's hat on. If you were the one selling this home, what would you be looking to do, right? And that helps you as a buyer's agent better prepare for that seller in terms of what they're looking for. How are we going to write this offer? And it's very hard for buyers to do that. It's hard for them to visualize and see themselves as a seller, especially if they've never been a seller before, but it also helps them step up and do what's needed in terms of getting an offer accepted in this market. So what I hope to accomplish today in this meeting is for all of us to be able to overcome the objection of why not to wait, whether it is buying or selling. When you understand on the buying side why it's important to buy real estate, who knows a good reason of why it is a good time to buy real estate? Let's just start listing them off together as a group. So to purchase right now, why would it be a good time?
Rent's high.
Rent is high, right? What else? Low interest rate. Okay, and what do we mean by low interest rate roughly?
still lower in the fours.
Lower than, you said in the fours? Fours is right, yeah, about low fours, okay? So, and then some people say, oh my gosh, they were at 2.5% though. How is that low? That's double what it was before. Because historically, when I purchased in 2004, it's in the sixes, and that was considered all-time low then, right? 6%. They were adjustable back then. They had something what was called toxic loans back then. This is before the market crashed. This is also the difference in the market when people ask, well, it looks like it's the same thing as what we saw before. Well, what they changed, something called Dodd-Frank. Dodd-Frank came out and Congress regulated, and they basically said, look, we're not going to allow this to happen again. It crippled our economy. Interest rates kept going up, similar to what we're starting to see right now. In 2000, I'm just going to jump straight into the market. It's important to understand what has happened historically in the market, as well as to know what's happening right now and where we're heading. Okay, so that's what we say in the listing presentation. We're going to talk about the market, where it's at today, where it's been in the past, and where it's heading. Nobody has a crystal ball and knows when it's going to shift, right? But what type of market are we in right now? Buyers or sellers? Sellers market. What does sellers market mean? I know I've talked about this before. What does it mean? Low inventory. Demand is high for the buyers, right? Inventory is low.
Homes are selling above list price.
Way over ask price in most situations, right? So it changes your strategy in terms of how you can negotiate, right? In terms of repairs, are sellers doing much in repairs? No. Appraisals, are they dropping their price on low appraisals?
They started.
They're starting to. Okay, see, he's starting to see a little bit of change, and you're actually going to see a little change just in January to February. So one of the things I'm going to really also emphasize is when the market was very dynamic, and I'd say about 2018, literally every 2 weeks, appraisers weren't even going back. They say right now appraisers go back 6 months, right, for comps. They go back 6 months. At that time, it was 2 weeks because it was that volatile. So they wouldn't pull 6 months. 6 months was too old. It was every 2 weeks, it was shifting, and not for the good. The market was already changing, and we're already starting to see some of those numbers where everybody thinks this is a white hot market, that it's the best time to sell. Don't you think there's other people that have been holding off on putting their house on the market, right? So in terms of the phases, you typically have 5 to 7 years of growth and 5 to 7 years of decline, okay? It's cyclical. So they would always say about every 10 years, you'd go through a real estate cycle in a market. Right now, it's closer to 14. And I'm going to just show you just on the quick example. Well, there's two little graphs that I always like to draw. This one first to get the visualization. This is since the early 1900s. The market, and it's a saying you can say, the market never goes lower than it last did in terms of home prices, right? So whatever the dip is, never goes as low as whatever the previous dip was, okay? So it doesn't go as far down, but it always goes up higher than the last high was. So if you buy it for the long term, you're going to be fine. If you buy it in the short term, you could get caught and lose money, okay? So that's something very important to ask. When you ask your buyers, are you looking to purchase and sell it in the next 2 years? Well, if so, you may be taking a major gamble right now. If people are looking to flip properties, they could get caught upside down. They could buy it for too high, put too much money into it, or not enough money to be able to recoup what they need to for what their expenses were. That's what we're getting close to. So we are in the growth phase. Does anybody know when the very bottom of the market was most recently was? I'm going to erase this just because you got the visualization here. Okay. So what was the bottom of the market most recently, if you had to guess?
Most recently in the last few years, or
I'm saying so in the last cycle, what was the very bottom of the market?
9.
So 8, a lot of people think 2008, 2009. Any other guesses? Okay, it was 2011. 8 is when it was crashing, right? 6 is actually when it started coming down. So just to give you the example from my first purchase was in 2004. I bought a little colony home. If anybody knows what those look like in Mission Oaks, they look like duplexes. It's about not even 1,200 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, paid $415,000 for it at that time. 415, no HOA. So that was the reason why I thought I was doing the right thing. I was approved up to 500. It's like, you know what, I'm not going to overextend myself. We'll get it at 415. It was a 2-year fixed interest only payment, 2 years fixed. Thinking at that time, houses were going up every month, $20,000. So I'm like, okay, I just need to get into this market. We'll move into this first, be able to make some equity. Within 2 years, we'll sell it. And then my brothers and I, so 2 of my brothers and I put money down on it. We'll all be able to buy our own properties. Well, the plan was working great, right? This is 2004. By about 2005, it was a year and a half in, and I'm worried about paying capital gains because I hadn't been there for a full 2 years. Year and a half in, I sell my neighbor who has the exact same property at $515,000 a year and a half later. So that's 2005. Okay, we're up to now 515. So plan's going just as expected. If I sell it right then, I'm good. Well, my 2 years is up. My 2-year fixed interest only. So I got to refinance it so it doesn't adjust because the rates are slowly starting to adjust at that time, right? So this is hitting 2005. Okay, we all know what starts happening in 2006 is when it actually maxed out. That's when it hit the all-time high prices, then starts coming down. Okay, so it went up to about 550. Then what starts happening for any of, but how many people are selling real estate back in 2005, 2006 in here? Is anybody? Okay, okay,
My
so
license is 06.
you got your license in 06. Okay, so 2006, at that time, there were clients that I had that purchased a home that within a few months already noticed homes are starting to sit on the market now. Okay, they just finally got in, same kind of scramble as now. Pay whatever you can pay to get into it, pay whatever amount. Remember, I got mine at 415. Less than 2 years later, it's already $100,000 up. Sounds like last year, right? It's already up 100K. That is an insane growth in a short period of time. So then what started happening is you started seeing more houses on the market. You started seeing a few others. Now you start seeing price drops. And so the prices start coming down. So now they're listed at 570. Now they're coming down to 550 and they're sitting. And then I have a client come up to me and say, hey, we're on an adjustable rate mortgage. It's adjusting as the rate adjusts, my payment is adjusting. We started at $3,000 a month. This is less than 6 months later. We're at $5,000 a month. They worked with another loan officer that was a family friend, not the one I recommended, right? But it didn't matter at that time. Everybody was pushing adjustable rate mortgages because they paid 3 times as much than a fixed conventional loan. So those toxic loans that they got rid of, they took away the profitability of it. So you saw a lot of loan officers jump out of the business because the profit went away. So now when they restructured it, they got rid of the toxic loans. Most people, a majority of the population, it's so much harder to qualify for a house now, but they can actually afford the house. The other difference is people have equity in their houses now. The people who paid $575, like my clients who purchased that property, they had no equity. Now they're trying to refinance it to get it on something more stable. They can't. Now, instead of $575, it's worth $550. So there's no equity in the property. It's going negative now. They can't do anything. They walk away from the property. They just walk. Most of the people in those first year to 2 years just left. And he probably should have just stayed in it. That family should have stayed in as long as they could have, because there was a process. And I think it was pride. It was a bunch of other things where they're like, you know what, we're going to get out of here. We don't want our kids to see a sheriff come by and put a notice to default. They didn't want to see that process. So they just walked. And it was the first time I was feeling it. And I had a lot of guilt. I went to law school in 2010 to 13, did a lot of thinking, and I felt responsible because I was paid a commission. And at that time, I'm 22 years old and new into the business, thinking I'm helping people better their lives. And now they're in a tougher situation. Now they got to reset. Now they got to start from scratch, right? When I go to law school, guess who's at fault? Or guess who everybody blamed? The real estate agents. That's all they said. Greedy real estate agents pushed everybody into these homes that they couldn't afford. All we're seeing is it's going to continue going up, 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 and up. We're seeing projections that at that time, the average houses were between $400,000 to $600,000. And we're seeing Santa Barbara at 1.1 million. So we're like, if Santa Barbara can do 1.1 million, then we can do 1 million, right? We can get up to that. That's what we're seeing now on this bus, or this increase, or whatever you want to call it, this bubble. it's the inflation has been insane, right? So you got to look at all the different factors of what's happening right now and what's happening. And it's not to be afraid to do business or afraid to get buyers in. Do you know the reason why I can feel good about putting a buyer in a house right now? Does anybody know why? Long term.
Short term is definitely very discomforting.
Well, because you can control your monthly payment. Okay, once you fix that housing expense and that you know they qualify for it, they fix that payment for 30 years. Unless they're, no, the only thing that can change is the property taxes, which is typically for the better. And what I mean by that, it's not always, there's certain things, there's one that puts a 1% cap on property taxes increase. But the thing that's interesting about that is when the market dips, they reassess all the values and then they actually drop your, so whatever you're paying in taxes, it drops. Well, the downside is when values start going back up, they can increase. Normally they can only cap at 1%. So it's not a huge increase, right? But when it drops down and then comes back up, people started seeing a $200 a month increase in their property taxes. That's a lot of money when you're on a tight budget, especially Southern California, okay? So the reason why I feel good about people purchasing is because when they're buying it for the long run, they're always gonna win. And also, as long as their rent payment can cover their mortgage, no matter what happens, their situation, if somebody loses a job, somebody passes away, they could always rent it out and keep that property and continue having a tax benefit, continue to build wealth, because the average homeowner has over $200,000 worth of wealth right now versus the average tenant at roughly about 6,000. Okay, so this is a vehicle to create wealth, to do some other things. So again, getting into the cycle. So we said 2004, peak 2006. We heard 2008, 2011 was the bottom of the market. Okay, this is important to understand. So when it started, I would say by about 2007-8, we were already at, I remember seeing the assessed value at 300,000 now. So the one I bought at 415 went all the way up to 515. Now I'm seeing the property tax bill say 300,000. My brother's saying to me, why are we still making this payment? We're under $100,000. We're never going to pay this thing off. Let's just walk away. I said, because it's cyclical. We have a house, it's ours. And then gratefully, we were able to do something called a loan modification. Okay, we were able to modify our loan. So now instead of our payment being almost $3,000 a month, my income also shifted based through all this. I took another job, which was accounts payable, making a fraction of what I was making selling real estate. And so now they reassess based, since I was the only one on the loan, based on what my income was. So now it was, you couldn't pay more than 30, I think it was like 32 or 33% of whatever your total income was. So it went from 3,000 a month now to $1,500 a month, and I'm still a homeowner. Okay, still got to keep my house. So the good news, and you can't tell people, oh yeah, bank on the government coming in and helping everybody out, right? But the government doesn't want it all to just unravel and fall apart. The key is to be able to get into a home that you can afford and you can handle that payment. But in the long term, as long as you're making payments, you're not pulling cash out like an ATM out of your property and just letting it do what it's supposed to do, you're going to be fine. But all the people who pulled a lot of money out, and I don't want to say all the people like they did the wrong thing. A lot of people were doing it. They were using their house like an ATM, going on vacations, buying boats, buying all kinds of stuff. So, and I know because I sold their homes. So when I sold their homes and I'm seeing, okay, $80,000 needs to be paid off for this, other things, you know, other circumstances that are happening, it wasn't just being used the way it should have been used. But a lot of loan officers, not to throw them under the bus, but they were saying, hey, you could do this, you could do that, you could try this, you could do that, just pull it out, just do this. And eventually it's going to catch up to you. So it's that fixed payment, okay? So 2011 is the bottom. Remember I said 5 to 7 years of increased growth, okay? 5 to 7 years after 2011 is what? Let's just say 7 years. At the end of the growth stage is 2018, right? So 2018. So the peak was here at 550. To get back to that peak, let's just say 2018. So from 2004 to 2018 is 14 years. That's what it took really to, I remember seeing 2018, it was right around that 415 mark again and starting to go up. So to recap and hit that high, it hit almost 2020. So 14 to 16 years later to recap that. Why is that important to understand?
Not gonna lose if they're buying for the long term.
That's an important reason. Also, if the market does shift again, does anybody think it may shift? Do we think it's going to continue to grow another 100, 200,000? It could, we don't know, right? But things are already starting to happen here that I'm seeing in the report. And this is just over 1 month from January to February. So if it does shift again, it could take another 14 years before we see prices like this today. Do you see the urgency of why if somebody's thinking about selling or retiring or making one final move, they don't have enough time for another correction. They don't have another 14 years. Does that make sense? That's the question to hit them hard with. Because if they wait, and I have somebody who I just got a call from just recently, is thinking because of capital gains, they want to wait till about May, June before they list and put their house on the market. Talk to another big volume producer who does a lot of listings. He said the same objection he's hearing is we're waiting 4 to 6 months and then we're going to put it on the market. 4 to 6 months. Everybody's waiting until the summer. Everybody is. So what I say is, why do you want to compete with everybody else? We know what the lack of inventory is right now. We know what we can get right now. That's why we need to list the home today. Tell you, this is all gold if you use this right with your clients. They have to understand the urgency. You may have to bring a piece of paper and draw this chart out for them to visually see what's happened with the market. And after the growth phase is called hyper supply. Hyper supply is when everybody realizes they missed the boat. They missed the peak price. Let's try to put our house on the market now. And now the houses start sitting. Now you see average days on market start stretching. Now you see that pendulum start switching. And buyers have been getting gouged for the last year to 2 years. I always say it's like sharks smelling blood. The second there's any kind of shift, watch how it flips on how buyers act in these situations. They're ruthless because they've been getting the short end of the stick for the last year to 2 years. So the second it shifts, you're going to see it. And you're going to say, nope, I don't want to pay that. Appraisal came in low. I'm not paying that amount. We're walking. Oh, you know what? I want a new roof. They start asking for roofs, $15,000, $20,000 credits. Houses in escrow, but then some neighbor down the street's freaking out. Prices at $20,000, $30,000 under what you're in escrow at. And guess what that buyer does? Well, why am I paying an extra $30,000 here? Cancel and goes to the other one, right? Or says, you know what? I'm going to cancel and go over there. I want you to drop it $20,000. This was happening in 2018, right? Before the rates dropped lower. And then the inventory got crazier. And then COVID hits and created a whole nother type of bubble because everybody's at home realizing what it is that they need. Does this all make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So next phase is going to be that hyper supply. Now let's get to the market report. Let's go to February 2022. Okay. Because I want you to see these numbers because it's important. So as you look at February 2022, this is for all of Oxnard. All right. It's really easy to pull this report up. We'll show you what to do with it. But the numbers that I focus in on, if I go to a listing presentation, that absorption rate is the very first thing I'm gonna highlight on there. Okay. Second thing, look at the average. So the absorption rate's at 1.34. Can somebody explain what the absorption rate means? How do you define the absorption rate? I know we've gone over it a couple of times. Does anybody know? What's it an indicator of? What's that?
The 30-day inventory supply.
Inventory. Okay. It's in reference to inventory. So this is a key number that shows you how much inventory we have. So 1.34 means it's a month, a little more than a month's supply of homes on the inventory or on the market. And with that, so that's through all of Oxnard. With the average days on market, it says average CDIM, that's contract days in the market. It's at 24 days. So with that average days and the amount of inventory that's there, it would only take a little more than a month to sell everything on the market right now. No new listings came on. That's what that absorption rate means. Now, if you look at it from last year, February 21, it's up. So now we're at 1.34. Last year, we were at 1.24. Now, just for comparison, let's look at January 2022, last month, right? So this is the other group. If you look at the absorption rate there, 0.98. And before was 1.28 the year before. So now since January of this year, last month, we were at 0.98. Now we're already up to 1.34 in less than 30 days. Okay. So we've already gone up 0.4 roughly. When you're only dealing with 1 month supply, that's almost a 50% increase. You see what I'm saying? That's just from January to February. Do you see what's already starting to happen? Now let's compare, just since we got both of them up. As you're looking at February 2022, the average list price is at $1,038,000. Okay. Now that's huge from last year, 828. It shows, and just so you know, I'm looking right next to it, February 22 versus February 21. That's a 25% increase in list price. Now this is the interesting number though. Look at the average sales price, 749 versus last year, 766. It's a decrease. The sales price has already dropped from what you got last year in the exact same month. You see that for February? Does everybody follow what I'm talking about? Now, if you look back in January, the average list price was at 947. So that's lower than February. I know I'm kind of jumping around, but this is important to understand. The median sales price last year was at 710. The average sales price was 817. So 817 is higher last year in January 2022 versus February 2022 for average sales price, 749. Do you see that? It's a drop. We're already losing value from last year in January. It's already a little bit less. Yet we had $100,000 growth in equity. How does that make sense? But look at where the list price is at. List price is high. Sellers all think it's high. So guess what starts happening right now? Sellers start overpricing. Houses start sitting on the market longer, and cancellations are going to start happening. So now it's even more important that you are honest with your sellers and you say, I'm not going to tell you what you need to hear to get the listing. I'm going to tell you what you have to hear to sell your home, right? Because if we make a mistake in this market, it will cost you. And if you have to resell it a second time with another agent, you're not going to make as much money as you would have if you would have hired the right agent the first time. Does this all make sense? The good news is when the market starts shifting like this, the better agents start doing better. And the sellers aren't all geniuses now because they can hire anybody and make a lot of money and it doesn't matter. So now choice starts mattering. Now having the expert starts mattering. So the quicker we can become experts in this, the better we're going to be. And you have to use the numbers to your advantage. It's all about painting a story, painting a picture, and getting them to understand that things are changing. As much as everybody thinks it's white hot. And so you're going to see more and more inventory start coming up. And buyers who've been struggling for a while, if you just got rid of buyers because you're like, I'm going to focus on sellers because I know I'll get paid if I get a listing. Nobody has listings. So that's what I want to get. All those buyers that you've been working with for the last year, those are all gold coming up. I'm telling you right now. So what you have to do is you have to keep inspiring them, keep giving them hope that things are going to change and that it will work out and they'll get the right house. I'm not saying that the prices are going to drop. It doesn't happen overnight, right? But the shift starts happening. It will get easier to get offers accepted, but you got to carry qualified buyers. So that's what we need to focus on doing is getting buyers to come in, educate them on the process. They're going to hear a lot of discouragement from all their friends and family and everybody else of why not to buy a home right now. Our job is to discover why it's important for them to own a home, especially if they want to live here in Ventura County. And most people don't think, and I'm just speaking from experience, maybe it's just my family and my friends. I know my wife never thought she'd buy a home in Ventura County. Growing up, she thought she never would. She never experienced it. Growing up as a kid, she never thought she could afford it. And most people don't think that their kids will be able to afford a home in Ventura County. But we can prepare them and we can teach them. And there's so many great programs that are out there that we'll talk about, especially as this market starts shifting. But we have to be 2 steps ahead. Okay. I know we're getting into a lot with it. The last things that I'm going to cover on here. So you saw the average days on market, 24 days for February 2022, right? Versus last year was the 29 days. So that's a 17% decrease. Then the median days, which I feel is an even closer indicator, 13 days and 8. The reason why that number is important if you have a listing is if you're taking longer than those days to get multiple offers on your property, your house is overpriced. That's when you should be looking to do a price drop, is at that either 24 or 13 day. And I would say 13 is more realistic. right now in this market, if you haven't got multiple offers in 2 weeks, then there's something wrong with your house. It's either overpriced, it doesn't show well, people aren't pulling the trigger on that. So that's your indicator, is 13 days. And last year it was at 8 days. Okay, so it's already increasing just a little bit there. So there's certain charts on there that you want to get familiar with, and that helps me show the seasons. So people see that there's a more ideal time to sell right now. So I'll highlight that before I get in. But the other thing I do is I go through this. So you see sold, pending, active, and new. So the listing that I'm looking at, let's just say, so this is for Oxnard. If I'm between the $600,000 and $700,000 price point, look at how many sold last year. Can anybody see for February? Sold. So go to the sold category, go between 6 and 699.9. How many houses sold? No. Do you see it? No, it's see it's right here. So this is on, I'm making sure I'm on the right one. So this is for February 2022 is the most recent report. And just so you know, after the last month completes, once we start March 1st, February is available. Once we're into April, then we'll have March available. Okay. 18. So 18 homes sold between 6 and 700,000 in Oxnard. Now let's see pending. How many do you see? 12. Okay. That's still down from last year. Look at 2021. There's 23. Okay. Are you all seeing that? So this is on the February. So what you want to do, if you're going into a listing presentation and your house is listed, you think it's going to be around 650,000, highlight how many sold, how many pending, how many active, and how many new. The reason why this is important is because when you tell them that we're going to list their house, we want it to stick out. And I heard this in one of the real estate books that we talked about. If you're looking at a one-line report that's all black and white, you want it to look like somebody put a highlighter through your one property, because it sticks out so much based on its square footage, based on what it is the best priced home in that bracket. Okay. So I want to win. So I want to know, how many buyers am I competing against? How many buyers are buying in this price point? Okay. We have 18 buyers out there. If we are not getting the action we need, it's because we're overpriced. The answer is always because we're overpriced. Okay. That's always the answer. So we have to show them, though, that we want to be the best priced property. If not the best, we got to be in the top 2 or 3. And it's got to look like somebody put a highlighter through that price when it sticks out, like, hey, wow, this one looks like a deal of all deals. What is this? And the reference for it, anybody who knows from my previous trainings, we call it the shiny penny. There's a shiny penny in every price point. So if you're working with a buyer, this is a complete flip. Most of us will show every property that's on a market that a buyer wants to see, when they want to see it, how they want to see it, whenever, and you're running everywhere. What you should be doing is, at every price point, looking for the best deal on the market, because that's what buyers buy. It's not what they tell you. They buy what they can afford, whatever at the time that they can afford it, whatever the best property is that's on the market. If they've been educated, if you go to Russ's training and he talks about crystallization and understanding what the market is, once they're smart enough to know it, and I don't mean it in a mean way, once they're smart enough to understand what a good deal is, and they step foot into the property, what should they do once they see that home? They should write. If they don't write, there's a problem. They either don't understand the market, or they're not telling you the truth. There's a deeper reason of why they're not moving forward on that property. And so us as good agents have to discover it. So if you want to cut the fat in terms of wasting your time with people who aren't serious or who aren't motivated, you show them all the shiny penny. So you show the best property on the market to 3 or 4 buyers if you have 3 or 4 buyers. And guess what happens to your probabilities of opening an escrow? Goes through the roof, right? Many buyers don't like that. And they're just like, well, you're showing it to, other people. Most won't ask. If they do, you got to be real with them and say, hey, look, yeah, it's the same property that everybody else wants to see, right? It's the best property on the market right now. So I keep confidentiality. I will never share what I'm writing for one person to another person, right? You have to respect that. But to work smarter, you start working those homes. because you will do more escrows and more transactions. For me, what it does is it cuts out all the BS time. I'm not running around doing other things. So this is just one approach. There's other approaches as well. Another one that I've heard of, just so you know, to make it real easy and take the pressure off, is you show that first so if I'm meeting a new client, new prospect, I'll say, hey, look, we're going to see 4 different homes on the market right now. Different neighborhoods, different styles, different things, right? You're probably not going to like any of them. You tell them that up front, you take all the pressure off. We're not going to write on any of them. I just need to get a feel for what it is you're looking for. Once I understand what you're looking for, next time we set up our showings, it's going to be very specific towards what you're. So that's a very non-pressure approach. But I'm telling you, that shiny penny is a game changer if you understand it. So you're not being worked by the buyer, you're working the property based on what's out there. And our job is to know the inventory. So when you know the best deals at all times, when you're talking to your clients, they hear it in your voice. And you're like, hey, we got to get to this property. We got to check it out. It's going to go. It's going to move. So it's been tough lately because the inventory has been so tight. So every property is like the best property, right? But you'll see what I'm talking about as it starts filling out more. That's how you cut the time out, because they will move. All right, I know I've gone long. Is it any questions just in terms of what we've gone over? I hope this helps. I'm really trying to lay the foundation in terms of understanding the market and knowing how to explain it so when the questions come up, and then also how to use the tools. There's other sources you want to look at. If you haven't done it already, go to car.org. Okay, that's another great source. There's a bunch of good graphics. I think I printed one out. Yeah, maybe on the other side over there. But basically, they have graphics, things you can use on social media that show about what's currently happening in the market. And you can use that and share that. But you want to be the market expert. So before you start just calling and prospecting and doing it, you need to have the Flex Market Summary Report printed out and right next to your desk. And start speaking with facts. Speak with numbers, right? Speak with what's happening out there. And it will make a difference. Analyticals will definitely eat it up, but most people will see that you know more, not than just they do, than what the market is offering out there. So I really wanted to focus on this because I know it's been a game changer for me with my own business in terms of taking listings and working with buyers. So I hope this helps. Any questions with it? Just anything that that you guys got from it? Any questions or anything you want to dive deeper into?
Where did you download this one? Is
So
it
this
under
one's on
the
Flex.
Flex, okay.
Yeah. And you go to the Flex Market Summary Report.
Summary, got it.
Yeah, and after we wrap this up and in this recording here, if you guys want to see it, I'll pull it up for you. Yeah. Yep, got it recorded, man. So no questions. I know that the market's not usually, it's not exciting to talk about and have a discussion about, but it is important to understand it and be able to explain it with conviction so that they know that you're leading them to the right spot. Okay. Anything else? I think we're good.
Good.
All right, let's wrap it up.